And here we go. So we are going to be looking today at how we can find the distance between 2 points on the coordinate plane. So everybody should have paper and a pencil again, because if you don't have paper and a pencil, we're not going to be able to do this. So you're going to want to have paper and a pencil, and then some of you, if you are not in a loud area, you can come off of mute so that people can answer questions here. But basically, we have been learning about the Pythagorean theorem, and the Pythagorean theorem is a theorem that has to do with a certain kind of triangle. So what sort of triangle have we been working with?
Right triangle.
Right triangles, yep. So we've been working with right triangles. So we're looking at a situation right here, and it is asking us to find the distance of this line here. Well, this line is not a right triangle, but what I'm able to do is I am able to actually create a vertical and a horizontal, just like we do when we find the slope. And when I create a vertical here and a horizontal, all of a sudden I have what shape?
A right triangle.
A right
A triangle.
Yep, so what I'm going to do right now is if I want to find the length of this line, I know the right angles right here. So I know that the diagonal line is the value of A, B, or C.
C.
I heard someone say it.
C.
C.
Yep, because across from the right angle, you're always going to find C. So we cannot count how long a horizontal line is. It's not possible to, we cannot count the length of a diagonal line, but we can count the length of a vertical and a horizontal. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem here, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, to find the value of c. Because I can count this leg of the triangle. This leg is going up 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And this leg is going across how many units?
3.
3 units, yep. So this unit's going across 3 units. So now I know that my legs are 3 and 4. So those are going to be A and B. So when I go to do the Pythagorean theorem, I can say that 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to, and we're trying to find C, so we say C squared. Well, what is 3 squared?
9.
9. And what is 4 squared?
16.
So it's 9 plus 16 is equal to C squared. Well, 9 plus 16 is equal to 25. So it says 25 is equal to C squared. But that is not our answer there, because what do we have to do to get C?
Find the
The
square root
square.
of 25.
Yep, we're going to take the square root. So on this side, we get C. And what is the square root of 25?
5.
5. So in this question right here, the length of that diagonal line there is 5. So anytime they are asking you to find the length of a line between 2 points, it is going to be the Pythagorean theorem, and right there the answer was 5. So when we go to look at this next question here, again, it looks like I can just count. I can be like 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot do that. That is not how, even though that looks like 1 unit, it is not 1 unit. So in order to find the length of this line, I have to create what shape on this coordinate plane?
Triangle.
A right triangle. Good. So I'm going to start with the point furthest left, and I'm going to go down to create my vertical. Then I'm going to go to the right, and I'm going to create my horizontal there. So I could find the slope of the line by putting my vertical over my horizontal, but right now they want me to find the length of the line. So I'm going to count this distance, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to count this distance, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Agreed? So my right angle is down here in this corner. So across from that, this means that this line right here has to be the value of C. And we realized that our vertical was 8 and our horizontal was 8. So those are going to be our legs, A and B. So again, I say that A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Well, here, that's going to be 8 squared plus 8 squared is equal to C squared. Well, what is 8 squared?
64.
64.
Good, so that's 64 plus 64 is equal to C squared. What do I do with these two numbers here?
Add them. Add them
Add
up.
'em.
Add them up, good. So what's 64 plus 64?
128.
Good, so that gives us here that 128 is equal to C squared. So we take the square root. So the square root of 128, that is not a perfect square, so we have to use a calculator. You can use a Google calculator, you can use one on your phone, but when you take the square root of 128, you end up with a value of about, does anyone have it? Somebody can get it. Good. So we got 11. It's laggy because my internet sucks because I'm running off a hotspot. But yes, it is about 11.3. All right. Everybody good there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're going to go on. So anyway, anytime they give you a line like that, that's what they want you to do. They want you to create the vertical and the horizontal to be able to find the length of the line. So we're not going to do this one here. These two here, we're going to look at a different type of problem. So here they have given us 3 ordered pairs. So they've given us the ordered pair for P, for Q, and for R. And it's basically telling you that these 3 points form a triangle. So if we were at school, what do you think I would ask you to do with these 3 points?
Plot them.
Yep, we'd have to plot them on graph paper, absolutely. But a lot of us don't have graph paper, so we're going to do something a little bit different. So this one is asking us for the length of the side made up of which 2 points?
R and Q.
R
R
and
and Q. Good. So I know that R is 3, -8, and I know that Q is 10, -2. And the only way that I can find the length of that line is by using the Pythagorean theorem. Well, what I need to do right now, because I don't theoretically have graph paper, is I'm going to use an online resource here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to use Desmos. So I'm going to go to desmos.com and I'm going to open up Start Graphing. So if you can do this while you're on the Zoom call, you can absolutely do this, or you can just watch. It's whatever you want here. But what I want to do is I want to make sure, first of all, that my thing is counting by ones. So right here, I see that I have 0, and then this is 2. So that's not really going to help me. I want to zoom in, and now I've got these like weird little lines on there too. So I want to fix what I see on this grid. So I'm going to go to the wrench, and basically where it says the x-axis and the y-axis, I'm just going to have it go from -10 to +10. And then for the y-axis, I'm going to have it go from -10 to +10. And then where it says step, I'm going to fill in 1. Uh-oh. Internet. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to turn off where it says minor grid lines. So you just want to be looking at a normal piece of what would end up being a normal piece of graph paper. So again, you are going to have to mess around with that, but again, you want that to go from -10 to +10 with a step of 1, and you don't want the minor grid lines. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this to plot our points. So the first point that we need to plot is 3, -8. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to open up parentheses, and I'm going to type 3, comma, -8, and that point is now plotted on this coordinate plane. Now the next point that I'm supposed to plot is 10, -2. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit add expression, and I'm going to put parentheses, and I'm going to do 10, -2. So now that point, can't see it, so I'm just going to scroll over a little bit, is right here. So what I have to do right now is I need to find the length of that line. So what I can do, and again, you don't have to draw on your computer, but I know that I'm trying to find the length of this line right here, from this point to this point. So what I need to know is how far up this point is, and then how far over. So if I go to create my vertical, it would go up to here. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then as I went to create my horizontal, it would go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now that line that would connect those 2 points would be what part of my right triangle?
The legs.
Well, the legs I already have, so the part that I'd be trying to
The
find.
hip something.
The
I don't know how to
hypotenuse.
pronounce it.
Good.
Hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse, yep, the value of C, our hypotenuse, good. So we know that if we're looking for C, that these are going to be A and B. So I would do A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So that would give me 7 squared plus 6 squared is equal to C squared. Well, what is 7 squared? 49, good. Plus what is 6 squared? 36. So that's going to equal C squared. So what do I do with the 2 numbers on the left there?
Add them.
Add them up. So I get that 85 is equal to C squared. But what do I need to do now to both sides? Take the square root.
Square root.
So I'm going to take the square root of 85, and that is going to give me a C value when I round of about 9.2.
9.2.
Yep, excellent. Good work. All right, so does that make sense as to what happened there?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to do one more like this one where you're plotting the points. So I just deleted those points here. So this next question here is asking us to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between -4, 5 and +3, 4. So we're going to go back here, and our first point was -4, 5.
Oh.
And then I'm going to add an expression, and our next point is going to be 3, 4. So now I have my 2 points. So I know that I am technically trying to find the length of the line that goes from here to here, which is technically a diagonal line, even though I drew it in a way that it does not look like a diagonal line. But I have a diagonal line right there, and the only way to find the length of a diagonal line is to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to draw a vertical. And how long is that vertical? Okay, well, there's my horizontal. So I've got my vertical and my horizontal. What's the length of my vertical line there?
1.
1, good. And then what's the length of my horizontal?
That's 7.
7.
It is 7, good. Then the diagonal line is always going to be the value of what? Hypotenuse, C, because it is across from the right angle. So that would be 1 squared plus 7 squared is equal to C squared. So what is 1 squared? 1. What is 7 squared?
49.
49.
1 plus 49 is equal to c squared. What is 1 plus 49?
50.
Good. So it says 50 is equal to c squared. So again, this is not 50 units long. I still have to do one more step, which is to take the what?
Square root.
Square root.
Square root.
Good. So I'm going to take the square root of 50 here. And when I take the square root of 50, I get 7.07. So I'm going to round that to 7.1. All right, so again, some of the questions that you are going to have, so I'll let you know like what the rest of the week looks like, but again, some of the questions are going to ask you to find the distance between 2 points. If you don't have graph paper, which a lot of us don't have, open up Desmos and create where you can count how many units it is. You just have to remember to go up here and click where the wrench is to create, and again, it's changed a little bit, but you can always start it with -10, +10, -10, +10, and you want to turn off those minor grid lines because they might confuse you. All right, so let's go back to, we're not gonna do another one of those. You've seen 3 now. We put those points on, we found the distance. We found the distance between those points, so we're not gonna do this one right now. And we're not going to even do this one either because it's not an essential question. But what we are going to do is we are going to look at 2 word problems here toward the bottom. So in this question right here, it says in a computer catalog, a computer is listed as 19 inches. So does anyone know how they measure the size of a computer or a TV? So if they
No.
tell you you buy a 45-inch TV, do you know what the 45 inches is?
No.
It's
No.
the
45
diagonal.
inches wide.
It's not
Oh.
wide. It's actually, yeah, it's a good guess. It's the diagonal. So if it's telling you that the computer monitor is listed as being 19 inches, the distance is the diagonal distance across the screen. So that tells us that the diagonal of this computer monitor here would have a value of 19 inches. So anytime we're looking or thinking about a diagonal line, we're starting to think about a right triangle. So I fill in my diagonal as 19. Well, they also tell us that the screen is 10 inches tall. So I can go here and I can fill that in as 10. So what shape are you now actually looking at?
Triangle.
A right triangle.
Triangle.
Absolutely. So across from that right angle, we have 19. So in this question, 19 is the value of which letter?
C.
C.
Good, because anytime across from the right angle, you have C. So that means that 10 is one of our legs. We can make it A, and this is going to be whatever other leg it might be. So we're going to make it B, and it doesn't really matter. That's what we're trying to find. So Pythagorean theorem tells us that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So for a, what number am I going to fill in?
10 squared.
10 squared.
Squared.
Good. I don't know what b is, so I can still put b squared. But what do I know about c squared? What am I going to put in here?
19.
19 squared. Excellent. So 10 squared is what?
100.
So we have 100 plus b squared. So now we just have to figure out what 19 squared is. And 19 squared is 361. So in the other questions that we were solving, our next step was to add 2 things together. But now I'm solving for b. So what do I have to do to solve here?
Subtract the 100.
Subtract.
Good. I actually have to subtract 100 from both sides. So I get that b squared is equal to, well, 361 minus 100 is 260.
261.
Yep. Now we know that the hypotenuse, the diagonal, has to be the longest side. So this can't be 261 units long. So what do we have to do there?
Square it.
Ooh, not square it. We do what?
I mean, Find the square root.
Square root. Good. So we take the square root there. And that's going to give us, when we take the square root of 261, we end up with 16.15. So we're going to make that 16.2 inches. So anytime you get a question like this, if you draw a picture, it'll always help. You're going to get questions where they like tell you that you have a rectangle and the length is something and the width is something, and they're going to ask you to find the diagonal. Well, that's just a Pythagorean theorem question where the diagonal would be C. So just be careful how they're asking you questions because as long as you know which one's A, which one's B, and which one's C, you're good to go. So we're going to look at one more question, and then I'm just going to show you your work. But there's only really two things after, like, this was your Tuesday work. There's something for Wednesday, and then there's something for Friday. So it's really not that bad this week at all. All right, so we've got a ramp was constructed to load a truck. It says the ramp is 9 feet long. So if you are putting a ramp somewhere, the actual ramp is going to be 9 feet long. So the ramp or the ladder or whatever is being leaned against something is always the hypotenuse. So it says the horizontal distance from the bottom of the ramp to the truck is 7 feet. So you've got some sort of horizontal distance there from the bottom of the ramp to the truck that I guess is over here. So that horizontal distance there is going to be 7. And it wants to know what is the vertical height of the ramp. So it wants to know how tall that part is right there. What is the vertical distance? So in this question here, there's my right angle. Am I going to be looking for the hypotenuse or am I going to be looking for a leg?
A leg.
A leg.
Good, because across from my right angle, 9 is going to be my hypotenuse. So a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So here, a squared is, well, we don't know because that's going to be a. We'll make 7b. So that'll be a squared plus, what am I going to fill in here?
49.
Yeah, 7 squared, which is going to be 49, and then c squared, which is 9 squared. So we end up with a squared plus 49 is equal to, what's 9 squared?
81.
81. Good. So to solve, what do I do next?
Subtract.
Subtract.
Good. So I do 81 minus 49, and I get that a squared is equal to 32. So is the answer to this question 32?
No.
Nope.
No.
So what do I need to do to finish?
Find the square root.
Find the
of
square
32.
root. So I'm going to take the square root of this question here, and when I take the square root of 32, I get 5.65, and then it goes on, but 5.65 is going to round to 5.7. All right, so does that make sense as to what has happened in those questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are just, again, a review of the word problems. Then up here, when you are trying to find the distance between 2 points, you can't do it unless you open up Desmos and you go here and you type in the 2 points. Once you type the 2 points, then you can find the horizontal and the vertical distance. So basically, you're just using Desmos instead of your graph paper to solve your questions. So looking forward for the rest of this week, I'm just going to go into the Canvas module so that you can see it. So most of you, because you're here, you're the people that have done a good job with your work thus far this unit. So sorry, I guess I X'd out of the Canvas module. So most of you have already done the work for Monday. The work for Monday was that you were supposed to go in and actually watch this video here where it says video notes for the Pythagorean theorem. If you don't watch these video notes, the 5-question skill check will be really confusing. If you get to a question on the question skill check that you don't know how to do, go back to the video notes for that question and look at it. So right now you have already entered the Zoom class. So this won't be really relevant to you unless you missed a lot of the class. If you missed a lot of the class, at some point, it takes forever to load things because my internet is so slow, but at some point today, this is going to change to Tuesday and it'll say Finding Distance Zoom class notes. You can watch that video. So then between Wednesday and Thursday, you're going to go in and you're going to take a thing in Canvas. Then on Thursday night, I'm going to make a video that goes over the most missed questions for that. So if there's a question you don't know how to do, you can look at that video, and then you can take the final thing about the Pythagorean theorem there for Friday. So that's really it for this week. If you have attended class and like today and you watch the video notes for Monday, you don't really have to, you're not supposed to learn anything else this week, except that after you take that next Canvas quiz, you might have to reference the video on Friday about 1 or 2 questions you missed. But again, there's no new lesson or brand new information. Now next week, we're gonna go into the last thing that we're gonna learn this year, which is exponent rules. So there aren't going to be any word problems. There aren't going to be any word problems at all, but it is just going to be how do I do operations with exponents. So you're going to have to watch the videos or it's going to be really hard because it's stuff you can't use a calculator on. So again, I just want you to be prepared for that. The math is not hard. It really is, all it is adding and subtracting, but you have to learn the rules. So as of now, are there any questions that you guys have about work? Just by virtue of being here, you guys are the ones that are doing the best work. But I do, like, if you go to click a video and the video doesn't show up, so let's say you click it and you get like a sad face. If you go up here and you click this, it's still going to take you to the actual instructional video. This is how slow my internet is, by the way, right now. It's just like casually loading. But so again, just be aware that you can get to everything that you need to get to through that Canvas module. And if you have any questions, I am absolutely here for you.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything else? All right. Bye. Miss you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. We miss
Good.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.